Hello, everyone. Thank you, Addie. Oh, beautiful. I don't usually need a microphone, but we're using it so that the Teams meeting can be recorded better. So if I'm too loud, just give me I get excited. I love this stuff. So, hang on, I've got to find my bearings. Addie's already done a lot of what I was doing at the beginning, so you won't have to hear quite a bit of this, which is good. But yes, Kirsty Bellombra, I just stepped back as president. I've been on the board for 10 years now. And after 3 years as president, I've just handed over to Will Rollo. So I stay on the board now for another year as past president, which is an absolute honour because I get to sit back now and put my feet up a little bit, which I love. So I'm still very heavily involved. I am also a volunteer and member for Sports Chiropractic Australia, Federation of International Sports Chiropractic. Heavily involved in their side of things as well. And I've been with them for a very long time. Sports Chiropractic Australia will actually be on the finishing line providing complimentary treatment for anyone. So please go and seek them out. Let them see you, get a good rub down. You've done the hard yards, so go there. And there's just a big sign that says massage tent. So go and use them. As Addie said, I'm a sports chiropractor, have been for a long time. It's a massive passion of mine. I also did my first crossing in 2007. So I've done 5 solos, and tonight I get to bring all of my favourite things in together, which is injury prevention in swimming. This is the team. So you'll see this shirt around, find them, use them. We are a not-for-profit that provides treatment at things like this. So lots of very experienced sports chiros there. So please see them and chew their ear off and feel good about what you've done. Going the wrong way, aren't I? So Addie also took my fun by asking who is doing what, but I'm going to ask you again just because I couldn't really see over there. So who are solos here? Beautiful. Eliza, good. Beautiful. Duos? Awesome. Teams? Oh, awesome. So good. So we've got quite a good spread tonight, which is really great because we try and tailor it. And at the end, when you do have questions as well, feel free to ask because we do have a good spread, and you know, what you ask, probably a lot of people will be curious about as well. Okay. I also have notes because I get so excited that I need to make sure I cover everything. So don't mind me as I make sure I've covered it. So tonight I'm going to talk about a few things, but to give you a bit of an overview, I'm going to talk about what injuries can occur, how they can occur, and most importantly, how to prevent them. I'll also share these. So if you don't have to take notes or anything, let us know and we can send you the slides. But if you want to take pictures as well, please feel free. Sorry? Yes. Okay. So there are 2 general types of injuries that can occur. So there's acute injuries. That's falls, sprains, all those kind of things that you see in contact sports, the kind of stuff that we very rarely deal with in swimming, which is good unless you get a little elbow on the start line. But then there's chronic injuries. So this is the overuse and overload stuff. And this is very relevant, and it's what I will be talking about tonight. Obviously, chronic is by far the most common. They are generally from small repetitive loads that are placed on the body, on things like joints, tendons, ligaments, muscles, all the soft tissues as well. And our cartilage, which is a big one. I'm going to talk about what the shoulder is in terms of anatomy and why we get so many injuries. One of the best examples of a chronic injury in sport is swimming up and down, back and forth for hours on end, using the exact same muscles over and over. We're not going side to side. We're not being thrown around. We're doing the same thing over and over again. So when it comes to this, our tissues can only tolerate as much load as they are conditioned to withstand before they begin to break down. So, you know, we've got to get our tissues to a certain level before we can load them up again. So when we place a higher demand on these tissues that they can handle, they're going to break down. And that's what we're trying to avoid. The best way to manage these is correct, safe, and progressive increases in stress on the body to ensure that our body is ready for the next stress that is going to take place. Okay, so common injuries, the most common places: shoulder, neck, low back, and funny enough, ankles. I'm not going to bore you with ankles tonight. We're going to stick mainly with shoulder, and obviously neck and mid-back come into that. But I'll talk about why and what we can do for it. Obviously, shoulders are by far the most common place you're going to get an injury in swimming. I got it right. Okay, so I might actually stand here and look at it on here. That's probably better. So up to 90% of swimmers will actually suffer from a shoulder injury or shoulder pain at some stage in their career. It's a pretty high number, but it can range anywhere from a bit of a niggle to, you know, quite a bit more serious and surgery. But it is a big number and it will likely happen at some stage. So the shoulder is inherently an unstable joint. It's the most unstable joint in our body. It's made for movement. So it's really complex anatomy, as you can, I can't use my pointer, but as you can see up there, it's made up of 3 bones, 4 joints, 15 muscles, 10 ligaments, 6 bursa, and 3 joint capsules. So you can see there is a lot of places that it can go wrong. And that's why it's really important to know when you do get an injury that you know, everyone will say to you, oh, it's probably this, because everyone has had an injury at some stage. But there are lots of different places that it can go wrong. So the most common type of injury that we do see, and when people say it's probably swimmer's shoulder, most of the time it probably is swimmer's shoulder, but it is swimmer's shoulder. So that's an umbrella term for many issues that can happen in the shoulder. So the main issue is actually what's called impingement. And it's linked to other injuries of the rotator cuff or a tendonitis or a bursitis or shoulder instability. As you can see, there's lots of places it can go wrong. So primary impingement of the shoulder is a structural or anatomical issue. So this is the stuff that if you have it, you already have it sitting here. But you can have basically this little bone. Oops. Too much. This little bone here can be sloped down and can cause, this is where we get impingement, this little hole here, oops, I'm not talking into this, under this bone. So there can be structural abnormalities that are in your shoulder. And like I said, you can't change that. That's there, but there are plenty of things you can do to help it. Then there is secondary impingement. So secondary impingement is what we're going to see will start to creep up if you're having issues whilst you're swimming. So this is functional variations. So it could be, and a lot of you would have heard of some of these things, but bursitis, so inflammation of this little blue fluid-filled sac here, which stops things from rubbing together. Up here, we end up squishing it. We've got a bit of impingement, squish. We can get little tears in our rotator cuff. This is back. This is another bit of our rotator cuff. We can get tears. We can get inflammation in that area to make that hole smaller. So like I said before, lots of little things that can happen. And I say this and stress this because if you do have an issue, it's so important to find out what that issue is. So people, especially in the swimming part of allied health, we're trained to go, this is what it is. We've got the test to go, okay. And then if we don't know, we can have a look. But it is really important to know what it is because your treatment is based on what it is. Often with impingement syndrome, it's not one of those, oh, we'll just push through. And, you know, you will have a bit of that, but if it doesn't get better, that's why we look at it, because there is so many things that can go wrong. Sorry, I don't have enough hands. Okay. I'd be a much better swimmer if I had more. All right. There we go. Okay. So there are 3 types of stress that athletes will be under. And some of this will come into what Eliza talks about as well. So it's really handy. You're going to fill in all the blanks for me too. There is, first of all, there's psychological stress. I'll put this nice little spread for you. So psychological stress. So that is our perceived stress. So that is basically, I'm worried I haven't done enough training. I've got a really busy job where I can't get in the water. That does put stress on our body. So we are going to feel the effects of that. So that's one thing to be very mindful of. It will crop up quite a bit and it's cropping up more and more. So that's one of the stresses. Second is physiological stress. This is the most important heart. So this is not what I'm talking about tonight, but this is how our body reacts to stress. This is our heart health. This is our lung health. This is all of those things. And we've seen it over the years, and unfortunately we've seen it increase a little bit, that we've really got to make sure that our body is ready to go through the stress of marathon swimming. So if you are concerned about anything at any stage, you're not feeling quite right, go to your GP, get checked out, make sure you keep on top of that stuff, because that's much more important than your shoulder. As we know, we don't need anything going wrong with our heart or our lungs. And the third type of stress, which is what I'm talking about, is mechanical stress. So mechanical stress is the external stress that we place on our body. It's not always a bad thing, this stress. We want to put stress on the body. Stress is basically preparing us for what's coming next. So this is the training that we do. This is the rehab that we do. This is the preparation physically to put our body under that so that it's ready for the next to come. We can control this direct stress, and that's what I'm going to teach you tonight. Okay, so I've talked a bit already, so I'm going to speed this up a little bit. I've got 6 pretty easy areas of injury prevention that I'm going to talk about. Load management, correct biomechanics, correct technique, adequate training, strength and cross training, and injury management. So take this with a pinch of salt. Actually, who here is with a squad? Who's training with a squad? So that was me. Sometimes. All right, so who's not with a squad? So quite a few of you. Okay, and that's totally fine. I've done a bit of both. This will be up a bit more, because sometimes it's hard and you don't really know what you're doing. You got a bit of a program, but take this with a pinch of salt, but this is a very basic way to know, are you putting too much stress on your body? So it's called the acute chronic workload ratio, and it's a number of where we sit in here to see our chances of putting too much stress on our body. So let's have a look at it from here. That's probably a bit easier. To get your acute chronic workload ratio, it is your acute training load divided by your chronic training load. So what that is acute training is 1 week worth of training in kilometres. So let's say, actually, I think I've got an example of this. Here we go. So let's say that we're in week 5 of our program. We're just starting up. In week 5, all of a sudden, we pump out 12 Ks. But week 1 to 4, we've done an average, let's say we've done 6 Ks each week. So we've got an average of 6 Ks. All of a sudden, we've done a 12. So we do 12 divided by 6, and we get an acute chronic workload ratio of 2. That puts us here. So very, very simple stuff. We know if we're going to redo that, we want that 12K week to come right down, and you're going to have some lower weeks, because you're going to have your weeks that you're actively recovering and recovery weeks. So it's going to be a bit lower. So just as a general, you want to be sitting here in this sweet spot. And on those other weeks, on those recovery weeks, we want to see it down in that rest. We don't want to see it below 0.8, we want to see above 1.5. Okay. Okay, number 2, correct biomechanics. So this is how our body functions. Some issues that there's a lot of issues we can, but some of the issues that we encounter as swimmers can be a loss of range of motion. So our shoulders, as I talked about before, inherently unstable, but we can lose range of motion in our necks or our mid-back. These areas, especially our mid-back, is there for flexibility. So we should be able to get that nice flexibility, which a lot of us sit there like this all day long. I don't in Cairo, so I've got that nice flexibility, but a lot of us don't have that. And that's going to put a big impact on our shoulders. So we can't get that nice stretch. We're not going to be able to get our shoulders back. We're going to end up swimming like this, and it's a lot harder. Same with the neck. Swimming, looking side to side, it's going to be a lot harder if you haven't got that range of motion, because all of a sudden we're coming right out of the water, and we're, to try and get that breath and coming back. So range of motion is very important. A loss of it can wreak havoc on our shoulders. Instability, hypermobility, or laxity. So for those of you who swam, I started swimming in the 90s, But it was a really, and if anyone remembers the Olympics, and they still do it a bit now, but it was really big to stand there at the start, throw those shoulders around. That's not great. That creates more instability. So if you haven't got much or too much stability, got too much instability in your shoulders, we're going to put those tendons and ligaments under a lot more stress than they should be under. Scapular position. So that's where our shoulder blade sits on our back. It should sit nice down low, pinned to our thoracic, so into our ribs. You see people, they pop up, they wing. That means that our scapula, our shoulder blade is not moving nicely. It should go up and down and move as we swim. If it flares, we're putting a lot of pressure on the muscles that are trying to pull it back down. We see it with a lot of swimmers that they're really weak in between the shoulder blades, sort of like lower traps, serratus anterior, these muscles, and it's not pulling our shoulder blades down. And then what that does is brings your shoulder forward like this, and that hole where we get that impingement syndrome is smaller. Altered muscle patterns. So muscles, especially our rotator cuff, that are too tight or too weak. And weakness equals tightness. Tightness equals weakness. When they're not functioning correctly, they get tight. And that's, you get out and you're like, oh my gosh, I can't stretch under there. That happens probably really commonly. And then because of our inherently unstable shoulder, it will mean that it sits where it shouldn't. And those poor bursa and tendons are going to get pinched. Strength and balance, side to side. So you all have a dominant side. We all do it. We've got one side that's going to work better on than others. So we're going to load up, like me, right-handed. I load up my right arm, and then my poor little left arm just flops through sometimes. So you'll see that difference in side to side. That starts to affect the neck because we don't have the strength to get ourselves out of the water. So we're all of a sudden doing this, trying to get our head out. And then limited thoracic mobility, same thing as I was at the top. We don't have that. It's going to put so much stress on our neck. So if you're worried about any of these, and we are taking questions at the end, but if you've got something specific, feel free to come up to me after. But if you are thinking, find yourself someone who can assess you and tell you what's going on, because prevention is way better than cure. So if you're worried about these, there are lots of people out there who will do a proper swimmer assessment and say to you, okay, you've got not enough mobility through your thoracic spine. You need to get this mobility up so that you're putting pressure on your shoulder. It's very important to have someone that's going to find these things before they become a problem. Oh, I love this bit. Okay, so correct technique. So here's some fun facts for you. In a normal session, let's say you do 45 strokes up the pool one way and 15 breaths if you're swimming, breathing bilaterally, which I will get to. 15 breaths, that's 150 meters. Let's say on an average of 4-kilometer training session, that is 3,600 strokes, and that's 1,200 breaths. Then the fun bit, on the day, and this is if you're swimming at this level. For 19.7, you are going to do 17,730 strokes and 5,910 breaths. That's some pretty fun maths. That is a lot of time things can go wrong. And you think about where you are at the beginning versus where you are when you're at the 16K mark. And for those who haven't done it before, it's fine. It's fine. It's nice. But for those who have, it gets a little bit tough. The goggles start filling up with some tears. You're starting to feel every one of those strokes and every one of those breaths. So we want those strokes to be as on point as we possibly can so that not only are we not getting injured, but we're also performing at our best. Okay, so some things to think about. Now, I just want to preface this with, for those of you who are in a squad, your coach, you can ask your coach, say, hey, can you watch me? What am I doing? Blah, blah, blah. For those of you who aren't and you think, I'm not really sure, there are lots of people out there who will do stroke correction as well. So you'll be able to find someone. If you ever want to know, you can always contact us and we'll put you in with someone and give you a name. But ask your coach if you've got it to watch you. One other thing is, that's very important, one thing at a time. So if you are going to change, just do one thing. Because if someone's watching you and they go, oh, you're unilaterally breathing and one arm's, stopping here instead of coming right down here. Just pick one, focus on it for a while. Make sure it's a habit first. Make sure you're not uncomfortable with it, and then pick the next thing. And this is why we do injury prevention now. And so that we know we get that stroke right. And for those of you who have been swimming for a long time, it's very hard to change your stroke. But do one thing, make it a habit, and then fix something else, because it's quite disheartening as well, because you'll do something and then all of a sudden you've given up because you've tried two things and it's not worked. So a couple of things to think about. Hand entry, a nice neutral hand. We don't want to cross over because we're going to put too much pressure under here. We don't want to come out here. We're going to put too much pressure on our bicep. We want that nice neutral hand entry to reach as far as we can go to get the most out of our stroke. Elbow position. So some people have different opinions on this, but basically we want to make sure our arms up nice and high. We're not dropping it, because as soon as we drop it here, we're in what's called the closed pack position. So our shoulder is as impinged as it possibly can be. So we want our shoulder up and high, especially so we can reach as far as we can and we're not coming in early and stopping our nice flow. Head position, not too low, because if we're down here, that water on the back of our head is pushing us and we're fighting against the push of the water, but we don't want it too high. And you will all find that you're spotting, obviously, and I'll talk about this too, but you want your head nice and neutral and you're not putting too much pressure on the back structures of your neck as well. Pull phase, so we want to make sure that we're getting that full pull. We don't want to be cutting it off, because that 17,000 blah, blah, blah is going to become 18,000 if we're stopping here and we're not getting that full effective stroke. So this puts less pressure on the shoulders. So you think about swimming, when we've got our body flat, our arms here. If we're getting that nice body roll, our shoulders here as opposed to here. And again, that closed pack position, we want to get that nice body roll, and we're not putting as much strain on the neck, trying to breathe this way as well. Breathing. Who breathes unilaterally? Honestly, I'll put my hand up. Yeah, so it's hard in the water as well, because we've got our paddler. So it's always going to be a bit different on race day, and we tend to paddler a lot more, especially when the weather's not great. So we want to be training to bilaterally breathe, do as I say, not as I so that we share that load on the neck. Okay, adequate training. So make sure you swim in all different conditions. I'd love to say that it looks like this every year, but for those of you who've been around before, you know that that's not the case, and I do too, and I'm still hurt by it. So it doesn't always look like this. So make sure you train in the ocean. I say that from a conditioning point of view, because it is a lot harder. I say it from a support point of view. You want to swim with your paddler. You want to make sure you're not like my husband and I did the whole way. My first solo was this, all the way to Roto, and he called me a swimzilla because I was yelling at him, and we're still together, surprisingly. He never paddled for me again. You want to make sure that everyone's on board and you can do it together. But from a conditioning point of view, it is so important. The way you swim in yucky conditions is very different to the way you swim in the pool. You're going to have your head up a lot more. You have to spot. You're going to look at your paddler. You're going to look at your boat. You're going to look at Roto, and it is a lot different. You're using different muscles. So make sure if you get up in the morning one day and it's awful weather, you think, yes, this is going to make me better on the day. And you get out there while I'm laying in bed. So pool versus ocean, obviously there's not that nice black line the whole way to Roto. So you're going to have to look, and you want to make sure that you feel comfortable with that. And yes, different stresses. Yes, and it puts that different stress on your muscles. So fitness-wise is really important too. Okay, 5 of 6. Sorry, I did say I was going to talk quicker than this. Okay, strength and cross-training. This stuff's pretty easy. Strength and cross-training is pretty simply something that you're doing at the moment that is not swimming. Some of you may have a different sport that you do more, but most of you will be swimming for the next few months. Basically, anything that is not swimming is considered cross-training. Here's a couple of, did I go too far? Oh, no, I didn't. So active recovery. So doing something like this will be, rather than just going and sitting on the couch, you go out for a walk. That's really good cross training. So using different parts of your body, and you are still recovering. It helps put different fitness on our body. So like I talked about before, it's something different to just using those same muscles over and over again. It's really good for mental health because you're not staring at that black line. And I hate to say it, but sometimes it gets a little bit boring. So mentally, it's nice to get out, know you're doing something for yourself that is not staring at that black line constantly. And you get to have a bit of a chat with people because we don't get to chat in swimming as much. And I love a chat, as we know. And it's a really good opportunity for rehab. So if you're given rehab, your rehab is cross training, and you can use that time to do your rehab and know that you're doing that active recovery at the same time. Some examples, if I can get to it. Water walking, running, even just different strokes. So, you finish your session and you get to do the nice walk down the pool. That's really good for you. Cool down, different training, gets your legs working. Gym or strength-based workouts, very important because you're not putting pressure on your bones when you're swimming, and it is very important to put pressure on your bones. So things like that are good for that. Running, yoga for mobility, Pilates for strength and thoracic mobility and neck mobility and everything. There's lots of examples. You can do what you like. Just make sure you do it. Okay. Injury management. So this is about ensuring a quick and effective recovery from an injury if and when you do get one. And like I said, 90% of people will get shoulder pain at some stage. So it will likely come up. All the stuff before is how we prevent it. But when that doesn't happen, we've got to make sure that we do it right when we do get one and we get on top of it quickly. Everyone is individual. And it's very heavily influenced by all of the things that I'd spoken about already today. You really need someone to tell you what's going on and what to do. And it's really important to do that from the beginning. The quicker we get onto something and get it sorted, the quicker we can get back into it. We'd never want an injury to stay around. We get those little niggles, but when you get a proper injury, it is so important to go and see someone and to see it through. So quite often we see that people will have an injury and then we'll give them a program and they'll do it for a week and the pain's gone, and then they'll be back 2 weeks later with the same injury. And that's fine, things will happen, but if you're given something, it's a really good opportunity to keep going, because not only is it helpful for injury management, but it's also really good for performance. So we will give you, an allied health professional will give you things that will help you perform better, as well as hopefully not get injured, or to help your injury when you do get one. And if you do have any questions on anything, like I said, I'm happy to chat to anyone about anything that they've got going on, and I'll hang around at the end and chat to you about it. So in summary, I'm on half an hour. Sorry, everyone. This is a good one to take a photo of, because this will give you a reminder of what we've talked about. But load management, that was that acute chronic workload. Just making sure we increase our load appropriately and factor in our recovery and not increase it too quickly. Have a plan, but listen to your body. If you feel like you need a rest, take the rest. Don't feel you have to stick with that program. Correct body biomechanics, so how our body functions, have it assessed by a medical professional if you're not sure. Stroke correction, bilateral breathing, correct hand entry, adequate body roll, complete pull, little things, remembering just one thing at a time. Don't overload yourself, both physically and mentally trying to do that. Adequate training, train in all weather conditions and temperatures to ensure you're both mentally and physically prepared. You don't want a big shock on the day. Strength and cross training, active recovery, fitness, mental status, rehabilitation, all those things we talked about, Pilates, yoga, walking, strength work, rehab, and injury management. Have your injury assessed and managed by someone who knows swimmers. If they don't, there's a lot of people out there that are very, very good with shoulders and anything else. But if you're not sure, having someone who specifically knows swimming is very, very handy as well, because they can give you little tips along the way as well with swimming. Great. No questions, because we will ask them at the end, but here is my email address. If you think of anything after this as well, we will share these slides so you'll be able to see it, but please feel free to reach out to me. Sometimes I take 5 to 10 business days, as those who know me, but I will get back to you. And if you've got any specific questions, we'll be here after. Thank you very much. Here is the